They called them exit holes, the forgotten pull-offs where teenagers went to drink, kiss, and watch headlights fade. Starting in 1987, they became hunting grounds. Across 4 states and 16 years, 5 young couples were found murdered in parked cars along Interstate 33. The case went cold. The killer disappeared. The silence held. Until now. In this story, a single parcel unlocks a vanished killer. Inside are a Polaroid of Room 5, a storage key dated 09-14-03, and a taped voice. Cold case investigator Bennett Crowe uses modern forensics to trace what the 90s missed. Photo analysis to place the room, audio profiling to fingerprint a fan's hum, and genetic genealogy to return names to the lost. The past left its signatures. He plans to sign back. Exit Wounds, a Bennett Crowe mystery. Chapter 1. The Parcel. 5 couples murdered off I-33 between 1987 and 2003. No charges. Today, a parcel addressed to "For the Archive" arrives with a Polaroid, a prison infirmary shift log, a pencil route map, and a storage key tagged 09-14-03. Monday, 2:10 p.m., Lake Street Studio. The parcel sits in the center of Jessa Lake's photography table like a dare. Brown paper, no return address. The sharp smell of old tape. She calls me because I keep an office above her studio, because I read the dead for a living, and because the label is written in the precise capitals used on evidence boxes. "Bennett," she says as I step in, "this feels like trouble." I glove up before touching it. The knife from my pocket opens the seam without cutting deeper, the way you learn in evidence class so you don't mark what you're trying to save. Inside, a Polaroid of a motel room, crooked angle, faded bedspread, a brass key fob with the number 5 just in frame. A shift log from a state prison infirmary, names and hours in a hand that never learned to hurry. A pencil route map of I-33 with red X's clustered near exit 61 and 74A, and a brass key on a cheap ring labeled by a white tag, Harbor Storage 141, paid. On the underside, someone has written a date, 09-14-03. Evidence log verbal, Polaroid, infirmary log, route map, storage key, tag with date. I say it aloud for myself as much for Jessa, who records on her phone because she knows I'll ask later for the exact words. "Is this your case?" she asks. "Cases," I say, plural. From 1987 to 2003, 5 couples vanished within 100 miles of one another. Bodies found near on-ramps and creek bends. The press called him the exit killer until they tired of waiting for answers. We caught fumes, never fingerprints. I bag each item separately, label and photograph the parcel and table. I keep the original Polaroid sealed and have Jessa scan it at high resolution onto a sterile card. The room in the photo is a rectangle with bad light and a door mirrored by a closet. At the edge of the frame, a notch cut into the paint, like someone carved a date and then painted over it. "Goal," I say. It helps to say it plain. "Verify whether this photo matches a real motel room and whether the key is active." Monday, 4:05 p.m. Phone with Harbor Storage. "Unit 141, the manager says. "Been paid cash quarterly for years by a courier. I can't let you in without a warrant or owner authorization." "Understood," I say, already typing a warrant affidavit. Unsolicited parcel, possible nexus to unsolved homicides, key in our possession, risk of destruction if we wait. Monday, 7:40 p.m. Bennett's office. I pull the old case binder, the one with tabs for each couple. The first pair, Lydia and Walt, were found beneath an overpass near exit 61. Dome light bulb removed, doors unlocked. The last pair in 2003 were never identified. The bones turned up in drought 2 years later with no wallets. I spread photos, compared to rain. The X's on the pencil map fall over 4 scenes we know and 1 we don't. Jessa leans in. The angle on the photo, look at the door mirror and here, this notch in the paint line. I note it on a pad. Could be room 5 somewhere old enough to still use brass keys. She brings me a second print of the Polaroid. There's a reflection in the mirror, a ceiling fixture. If the bulb was out, he had to see somehow. Or he taped felt dots over the dome lights in the car, I say. Memory catching. One witness from 91 mentioned dark as a glove compartment. I call Deputy Ruiz at County. He has lived with these cases too long. I'll meet you at Harbor Storage when your warrant is active. No cowboy stuff. Cowboy died in 2003, I tell him. But the date on the key tag, 09-14-03, opens an old door in my head. That September, a highway patrol put out a bolo for a driver who refused ID at mile 74. Partial plate, tail light out. The stop never completed. The bolo died with the shift change. I add it to the list for morning. Bennett, Jessa says softly, if this is him, he mailed it to you? Not to me, I say. To the story. And stories don't scare. I seal the parcel in a banker's box, log the time, and tape my signature over the seams. The purpose is simple. Open the door, define the target, keep the chain clean. I write it on the whiteboard and underline one word twice. Clean. The box sits like a second heartbeat. Somewhere, a man, alive or dead, decided to nudge us. I intend to nudge back. At 9:02 p.m., my email pings. A DOT archive confirmation. Call box index maps for I-33, 1990 to 2003. Someone granted the request faster than they should have. Chapter 2. Harbor Storage. Case recap. Unsolicited parcel points to Harbor Storage Unit 141 and a motel room 5. Objective: enter storage legally, preserve chain of custody, and assess whether contents link to I-33 couples. Tuesday, 9:40 a.m. Harbor Storage, Bay 141. The morning air smells like rubber and rain. Ruiz meets me at the gate in a county windbreaker with a thermos the size of a fire extinguisher. He says, "Warrant served at 0936, nodding to the manager who holds a clipboard like a shield. Everything we do is on camera. I say, gloves on. Photos first, then bag and tag. Unit 141's door rolls up with a sound like a train losing patience. Inside, a waist-high metal cabinet, a banker's box like the one on my desk, a plastic tub labeled car kit, and on a shelf, a portable cassette recorder with a cracked hinge. I say, hold. We shoot wide, then move in. The cabinet contains zip ties, a narrow head screwdriver ground to a wedge, a roll of felt dots, and cut sections of black electrical tape on wax paper. Evidence log update. Cabinet with bindings and tool. Car kit. Portable cassette recorder. One sealed banker's box. Ruiz eyes the recorder. We don't press play in a storage locker. I say, agree. We cloned first. I bag the recorder as item C7. CSU techs swabbed the felt dots for touch DNA using an MVAC. They also swabbed the key ring and the wax paper that held tape. I tell them, low copy is okay. Profile across multiple surfaces matters more than quantity. The banker's box is lighter than I expect. Inside, negatives in a cool sleeve, a rain-warped motel guest ledger, and a stack of Polaroids, most of them overexposed. In 3, room 5 appears from slightly different angles, as if someone were testing sightlines. In the mirror of 1, the ghost of a man's shoulder and the edge of a desk fan resolve when we scan at high DPI. I say, fan hum could give us a frequency, more to myself. Power signature is a fingerprint. The motel ledger lists names and keys from 1994 to 1998. Half the entries are in the same careful hand as the prison infirmary log. Ruiz says, someone who worked nights, someone who liked order. We photograph every page before bagging. The manager hangs back, the good kind of nervous. He says, "You gentlemen need anything else?" Ruiz says, "Just a signature for consent to release surveillance from your gate cameras for the last 12 months. We're not hunting you, we're hunting history." On the unit wall, pencil hash marks tally in groups of 5. 32 tallies. I say, not victims, because the numbers don't match. Trips. We seal the unit. The manager changes the lock to a police hold. I log the time. Tuesday, 12:15 p.m., County Forensic Lab. We create a bit-for-bit clone of the cassette to digital. The original goes into a heat-sealed bag with desiccant, labeled and initialed across the tape. Listen from the copy, the audio tech says, sliding me headphones. A box fan drones under the hiss. A voice, male, steady, reading a prayer or a pledge, slips in and out like a tide beneath noise. "Can you profile the hum?" I ask. 60.02 Hertz with a second harmonic at 120. Room reverb small. We'll get you an equipment estimate. Tuesday, 1:50 p.m., DOT archive room, remote. The callbox index maps arrive by secure link. In 1995, a 2-mile stretch near exit 74A shows repeated outages marked with grease pencil. I layer our X's over the outages. 4 known scenes sit just inside the ring. Planning, not luck. Goal, I write at the top of the board. Validate room 5 location, cross-match ledger to nights of known abductions. The negatives include one shot of a brass key fob pressed onto paper, like a rubbing. The imprint reads, Birch Run Motor Court, 5. Chapter 3. Room 5. Birch Run Motor Court and its ledger point to Room 5. Our job is to enter lawfully, document precisely, and let the room confirm or deny the photograph. Wednesday, 9:10 a.m. Birch Run Motor Court, condemned, Lot B. The sign out front has lost half its paint to sun and wind. The remaining letters cling like old stamps. A chain-link fence leans around the lot, the kind of barrier that implies order rather than enforces it. Ruiz meets the city inspector at the pedestrian gate. Keys change hands with the relief of someone happy to let responsibility move to the side of the badge. We're onside on a warrant with city consent, Ruiz says to my recorder. Deputy present, scene secured. He keeps his voice even, the way you do when a building has history and a floor that might not forgive you. The walkway is a shallow canyon of cracked concrete, cigarette burns pressed into its surface like punctuation marks from other decades. Room 5's door sticks, then sighs open. The air is dry and mouse-sweet. We stand still for a count of 5 to let dust settle and our eyes adjust. Then we photograph the threshold, hinges, the baseboard, the closet seam. One wide, then grids. Nothing moves until it has a picture of itself in place. I step to the exact corner where the Polaroid must have been taken. The frame inside my head is now the room in front of me. Door on the left, mirror on the right, closet door just off plumb. When I lift my phone and match the angles, a lock turns. Same geometry, same cheap proportions, same tired lamp that seems to eat light rather than give it. This is the same room, I say out loud, for the record, and for the listener who can only hear. Along the hinge side of the jamb, a shallow groove appears when we rake light across paint. The building tried to heal over it, but didn't finish the job. The digits resolve, 091403, the same date written on the storage key tag that arrived in a parcel on Jess's table. We mark with a paper scale, photograph from 3 angles, then protect the surface with a plastic sleeve so our sleeves don't do damage of their own. The maintenance panel between rooms 4 and 5 opens to a service void barely wider than my arm. Dust sits in soft drifts. Somewhere, a dry fan belt squeaks once and gives up. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth and left where a hand could reach from either side, lies a portable cassette and a bundle of motel matchbooks tied with a rubber band that has gone to amber. We photograph in situ. Ruiz calls out the time. Deputy Ruiz witnessing recovery from wall void between rooms 4 and 5, I narrate. 0947. We bag and tag before curiosity can talk us into pressing play. A portable ALS paints the room in shallow blues. 2 coin-sized circles glow near the baseboard, adhesive residues where something once stuck and was peeled away clean. Felt dots come to mind. There was a roll in the storage kit labeled Car Kit. Cheap craft store acrylic leaves a chemical echo long after the felt is gone. We swab, label, and photograph the swabs before they leave the field of view. Outside, the inspector initials our scene log and notes the condition of the door, the panel, the window locks. The wind moves dust along the walkway in faint lines that look like writing in a language the motel forgot. We close and seal room 5 and load our evidence into the county van with a ratchet that prefers loud agreement. Wednesday, 11:30 a.m., County Forensic Lab.
Audio takes the cassette first. The tech doesn't flinch at old tape. She threads it like a nurse starting an IV. We clone to digital before listening. On the copy, a fan hum sits like weather under the voice. When she aligns the new track with the earlier one from storage, a predictable wobble lifts and returns. Capstan nick, a tiny flat on the drive wheel that makes sound lean and stand up again. She says, "Same machine, same wound," and slides the original into a heat-sealed bag with desiccant. I sign across the seam. Chain stays clean. In imaging, negatives from the storage unit scan at high DPI. Batch codes put the film in the mid-90s. Paper texture agrees. Along one strip, a fine scratch arcs through several frames. A camera's scar the picture can't hide. The specialist lays our room 5 scan beside a brochure pulled from a motel archive and traces door-to-closet lines with a clear ruler. The angles match, as much as rooms and paper ever do. Wednesday, 2 p.m., County Records. The motel ledger lives where ledgers go to nap, a cardboard box with a bow of twine and a brittle label in faded marker. Pages list names that don't want to be remembered: Smith, Jones, and payments in cash. The hand that wrote them is the same tidy block that filled the prison infirmary shift log. Square capitals, careful spacing, a 7 with a firm crossbar. The dates line up with nights when the highway maps put us near exit 74A. Whoever wrote here liked order and the quiet that comes when other people sleep. Back at the studio, I add 3 words to the whiteboard under the hour and date: confirm, compare, connect. The boards hold more string than yesterday and less confusion. We didn't make the room talk. We let it clear its throat. I log each item into our evidence ledger by number and by sentence, because future hearings never ask for poetry, only sequence. Jessa cleans the Polaroid scan one last time and pins a print at the edge of the board where we keep anchors: the parcel, the key tag, the ledger page, and the oilcloth bundle still unopened beyond the lab. My phone buzzes. Jessa texts a photo from the library. North County High, 1990. A yearbook page shows David Harrow at a clerk's desk, tidy beside metal file drawers. In the background, a brass desk fan with a cage of long ovals, the same pattern ghosted in the motel mirror. We don't say the name out loud. We don't have to. Paper is speaking it for us.
Chapter 4. Signatures. We have room confirmation, cassettes, negatives, ledger. Objective: extract forensic signatures, image, audio, and geography to reduce the suspect pool. Thursday, 8:10 a.m. County Forensic Lab. The lab smells like coffee and acetone, the background perfume of certainty. On the audio bench, the spectrogram renders sound as landscape, colored ridges rising and falling as the technician plays each cassette. She marks the mains hum at 60.02 Hz, threads the fan's harmonic ladder through it, then isolates a soft, repeating wobble. "Capstan Nick," she says, pencil tapping the screen. Tiny flat spot on the drive. It creates a predictable wow. You hear it here and again here. She aligns both recordings. The waves lie down on each other like two veins found in the same wrist. Ruiz watches without speaking. He knows juries don't read spectrograms. They read confidence and chain of custody. The tech saves the profile, stamps her initials and the time, and burns lossless clones. I seal the originals with desiccant and sign across heat-sealed seams. If a future lawyer asks where breath sat in the room, we can point to the line where we began. Could be a self-recorded manifesto, Ruiz says. Or practice, I answer. A voice teaching itself not to shake. Thursday, 9:40 a.m. Imaging. In the next bay, geometry turns Polaroids into maps. The imaging specialist pins the birch run frames to foam and pulls straight-line edges from door to closet to mirror. She feeds those angles into a photo match tool and scrolls through a cloud of archived motel brochures. 2 pings return for Birch Run Motor Court, the same cheap lamp and closet pole, the same fat baseboard scarred by luggage. She lays our scan beside the brochure like a palimpsest. The room holds still in both. I ask for a second pass at higher DPI. Along the sprocket edge of one negative, a fine scratch arcs through several frames, an injury carried by the camera itself. If we ever find other shots with that scar, we'll know whose eye was behind the viewfinder without seeing the man. DOT index maps wait on a light table, call boxes like beads on a wire. In 1995, outages cluster around exit 74A. Our analyst overlays the red X's from the pencil route map and the known body sites. The composite blooms. 4 scenes inside a 2-kilometer ring of dead phones. Planning, I say for the recorder. He rehearsed where help would not come. The word rehearsed feels right in my mouth. It bridges the tapes to the highways. Thursday, 11:05 a.m. Tool marks and trace. Under a comparison microscope, zip tie ends from an old scene sit beside test cuts with the narrow head screwdriver recovered from storage. The examiner adjusts the light, until faint striations walk across plastic in the same diagonal. Not a unique match, but consistent with a hand-ground bevel. The world is mostly consistence. A case is how you stack them. Adhesive scrapings from Room 5's baseboard test as common acrylic, the same as the craft store felt dots in the storage kit. CSU calls from the wet bench. The MVAC coaxed low-copy male DNA from the back of a felt dot and from the storage key ring. Partial profiles only, but they are consistent across surfaces. Somewhere, a glove slipped or a habit ran ahead of caution.
I sign submissions for CODIS and move a duplicate sample to the private genealogy vendor who works with law enforcement. If the 2003 bones can anchor to a family tree, we will give 2 people their names, and the case, the spine it's been missing.
Thursday, 1:20 p.m., County Rehab Center. Micah meets us with a victim's advocate present. Consent is signed. The recorder set gently on the table like a fragile cup. He speaks in short lines a lung can trust. He knew about lights, Micah says. My dome light never came on. It felt like being folded smaller. He glances at the advocate, then at the recorder. He read something, not scripture, but he wanted it to sound like scripture. His voice didn't shake. We stop early. Advocacy first, data second. In the hall, Ruiz lets out a breath he didn't know he was keeping. Thursday, 3:40 p.m., Lake Street Studio. Back at the studio, afternoon light flattens the table into a drafting board. Jessa lays out a yearbook, North County High, 1990, to a page where David Harrow stands beside metal file drawers. She adds a church newsletter from 1992 listing him as recording secretary. Order, lists, air moved by fans. We let the paper speak his name before we do. On the whiteboard, I write the day's plain goal. Quote, link Harrow in ink. Keep saying what we can prove. Unquote. We stand quiet 10 seconds to let the edges settle. A trooper sends a 2003 scan. Exit 74, tail light out, driver refused ID, plate partial 3N7. He broke off the stop for a crash. The bolo expired with the shift. The date is 09/14/03.
Chapter 5. Names in Ink. Paper trail suggests David Harrow. Objective: corroborate with independent records and avoid tunnel vision. Friday, 9 a.m., County Clerk's Office. The records floor hums with old machines and new nerves. We trade pens for golf pencils and slide request slips under glass. 10 minutes later, a clerk arrives with archive boxes that look like they survived 3 administrations and 1 flood. Paper dust lifts when the lids come off. The smell is the same in every courthouse. Toner, copy paper, stress. Harrow's file reads like a neat person trying to vanish inside routine. Birch Run Motor Court, Assistant Manager, Knights, 1994 to 1998. Later, State Prison Infirmary, Clerk, 1999 to 2004. Evaluations are bland, the kind you write when you can't complain but won't praise. I set our motel ledger beside a scan of his shift log. The hand matches, the square capitals, the tidy bar on the 7, the habit of spacing numbers as if they might run into each other. Ruiz photographs each comparison with a scaling ruler and a color card. He says no one argues about size later, like a superstition. Addresses tell a simple story. 2 apartments in a decade, both within 20 minutes of exit 61 and 74A. Geography is not guilt, it is alignment. I write the word alignment on my pad because words stick better when you see them twice. Don't say his name outside this room yet, Ruiz says. We build until it can't fall. Friday, 11:10 a.m., DMV Archives.
A TV murmurs about classic cars while we wait. The clerk at the terminal doesn't look down as she types. In 2003, the sequence 3N7 blank was a light pickup batch. Harrow registered a pickup that spring. The renewal note reads faded green. The color of moss when paper needs a word. Impound logs from 2006 list a green pickup towed for unpaid tickets, auctioned, then swallowed by a software change that never fully took. Paper fog. If title never cleared, the truck might still be sitting somewhere with yesterday's dust. Outside, wind lifts grit off the lot and throws it under cars. Ruiz shades his eyes. He says, "We keep drawing circles. Sooner or later, a circle becomes a target." Friday, 1:10 p.m., County Forensic Lab. The audio specialist aligns the two cassettes. Breath patterns, sibilant shapes, and timing settle into one signature. "Same mouth," she says, careful to stop at probability. I sign for chain copies, request certified duplicates of the logs, and slide them into our growing binder. Paper is the only thing in this job that gets heavier in a comforting way. We nudge the genealogy vendor, not rush, context. If the 2003 bones give us names, families get to stop using they when they mean she and he. It's a grammar decision, and also everything. Friday, 3:30 p.m., St. Bartholomew's Parish Hall. The parish office is narrow, the crucifix steady above a jam-prone printer. Jessa already has the summer fair photo on the table. 1992, back row, Harrow beside Lucy Ellison. On the table between them, a brass desk fan, the cage bars in the same long ovals we saw ghosted in Room 5's mirror. Names matter, but so do objects that follow men around.
We pull the sign-up binder. In a margin, a neat hand notes, "Recording Secretary, Harrow." A person who likes lists, order, the sound of paper under a pen. We photograph the page with the year stamped on the spine, then the photo with a scale, then the fan close enough that the ovals become abstract geometry. Outside, chalk squares wait for kids and a bake sale. Inside, we speak quietly, because rooms like this prefer it. Ruiz studies the photo a long time. He shows up where air moves, offices, ledger rooms, fans. Friday, 5:20 p.m., Lake Street Studio. Back at the board, we build the story the DA must tell. The parcel points to storage. Storage points to room 5. The ledger ties to employment, then the parish, then Lucy. The truck connects to soil, then visor prints. We keep verbs plain: found, matched, recovered, compared, submitted. A wall of labels and string can look like a conspiracy if you're not careful. Clarity keeps it from that. The impound yard answers near 6. A manager with paperwork fatigue explains that a green pickup tied to Harrow was auctioned but never retitled. It sits under a tarp in a back row, title unresolved during a system change that ate its own tail. If we can thread the needle with a judge, we can put the truck under glass without touching the screw. Jessa tacks the photo of the fan beside the Polaroid's faint mirror fan. 2 ovals, 2 rooms, 1 habit. We don't say it out loud. We don't have to. The board says it for us. The pickup still exists, auctioned, untitled, tarped. With the right order, we examine it tomorrow. Chapter 6. The Truck. A green pickup linked to Harrow has surfaced. Objective: lawfully examine the vehicle for latent prints and trace evidence. Continue building the pattern. Saturday, 10:20 a.m., County Impound Yard. Behind a welding shop, rows of cars sit like paused sentences waiting for verbs. We sign forms until the manager relaxes his shoulders and waves us through. Permission feels real when it smells like ink and carbon. The pickup waits under a sun-bleached tarp. When the canvas peels back,
The paint shows the particular green of old bottles left in a window. Rust freckles the wheel arches. The bed liner holds a thin drift of grit. We photograph the exterior from four corners, then each side, then a grid of details, badges, screws, glass seams. Inside, the dash has faded one shade lighter than the glove box. It's ordinary, which is the most unsettling thing a vehicle can be after years of rumor. Our order limits us to non-destructive tests. Fine. Vacuum metal deposition is patient work. The tech frees the sun visor, logs the serial stamp, and slides the visor into a steel chamber the size of a dorm fridge. We pull vacuum, gauges settle, gold vapor flashes, then zinc. Invisible oils remember fingertips as if skin never left. On the edge where a hand would flip the visor down, ridge detail blooms like frost on a window. "Prints are prints," Ruiz says, keeping his voice level as if good news might startle. I log the chamber settings, the batch numbers for the metals, the vacuum curve. Questions arrive later with better shoes. We answer them now in work boots. With gloved fingers at a soft brush, we tap compacted soil from the wheel wells into paper envelopes. Grit rattles like rain. Later, a geologist will compare quartz to feldspar ratios to soil from the creek bend. Dirt writhes, tires remember. Under the passenger seat, a folded receipt waits like a small confession. Oil change, August 2003. A garage off exit 74A. The clerk still working there remembers Harrow as the quiet one with the file folder. The kind of customer who stands straight and leaves no smell behind. The receipt goes into a bag, labeled, signed, sealed. We sweep the cabin with a flashlight. No trophies, no notes. Minimalists leave less to argue with, more to infer. The air holds the metallic tang of the VMB chamber from the shop next door. I write the time and the weather anyway, because timelines like context. Saturday, 2:30 p.m., Lake Street Studio. Back at the board, we lay today's photos beside yesterday's. Jessa threads new string through old pins. On the speakers, the cleaned audio runs in 2 lanes. When the tracks are aligned, the recorder's whine reveals itself as a heartbeat that never learned to hurry. The same machine, the same flaw, the same man teaching his hand to be a metronome. We let the silence after playback sit. Some voids belong to the work. Filling them is not our job. The GIS analyst joins us with a laptop that turns map tiles into weather. On one layer, callbox outages glow dull red through the 1990s. On another, our red X's mark scenes and pencil map points. A kernel density surface rises like a low tide exposing reefs. There, in late 95, a 5th ring forms around a creek bend pull-off no one resurveyed after floods. It's not new information, only a new alignment of what we already carried. But alignment can feel like revelation if you've been walking in fog. Goal, I write beneath the map. If there's a site we missed, find it. Non-invasive first.
Ruiz calls the ME to lock in resources. I call the drone unit and a GPR tech who eats field work for breakfast. By the time we pin a printed map to foam, we have a morning slot, a grid plan, and a list of names to put on the scene log. Before we leave, Jessa slides a thumb drive into an envelope and writes today's date and the word redundant. If something happens to the studio, the case survives. Redundancy is the quiet twin of hope. On my way out, I touch the edge of the Polaroid through its sleeve, a superstitious gesture that means nothing and everything. People bring weather with them. The man we're drawing out of silence prefers rooms that hum, roads without phones, cars that keep their own counsel. We follow where the hum points. The map fixes on a creek bend pull-off most people forgot. At 0900 tomorrow, we make the ground speak.
Chapter 7. The Ground Speaks. A neglected pull-off falls inside the outage ring. Objective: survey with non-invasive tools and, if indicated, recover remains under ME supervision. Sunday, 9 a.m., Creek Bend Pull-Off, mile 76.
The pull-off is a shallow bite taken from the shoulder, half-healed by grasses. From 50 meters up, the drone shows the creek braiding through alder and rock. The turnout reads as a pale thumbnail against asphalt. We grid the ground with flagged string and walk lanes like careful readers. The GPR cart hums. On the tablet, subsoil stacks in chalky bands. Then, near a snag of roots, the trace stutters, a shape like a breath drawn and held. Disturbance, then compaction. The ME nods once. Scene control tightens. New tape, fresh log, a second witness to every step. Shovels bite only after flags multiply. Even then, the cuts are surgical. The ME narrates quadrants, depth, approach angle for my recorder. Dirt moves to trays, then to screened tables. The ground gives up its sentences slowly. Bones appear the way lost words return. Glimpsed, doubted, then unmistakable. Long bones, 2 by 2, a scatter of buttons, the pressed oval of a ring. Then metal at the edge of a square, a brass key fob welded to its chain by corrosion. When it turns in Ruiz's gloved hand, the letters catch light. Birch Run 5. 2 victims, the ME says. Calm because precision is a kindness. Years gone, we'll know sex and approximate age soon. Isotopes, maybe dental, DNA if we're lucky. We label and lift. Small paper bags for small things so they don't sweat. The ring's engraving is photographed before the sun slides behind a stubborn strip of cloud. Times, bag numbers, witness names enter the log in their small printed rows. The air smells like wet iron and mown grass. Back at the lab, the isotope profile suggests Midwestern origin for at least one set. CSU pulls a partial profile from tooth pulp and moves it into the cold chain. We hand carry to the genealogy vendor. The courier signs and treats the envelope like a thing that could shatter if it hears a loud voice. By afternoon, the soil comparison returns. Quartz to feldspar ratios from the truck's wheel wells overlap the creek bend within tolerance. Not a trumpet, a thread. Ruiz circles the phrase match within tolerance and writes context next to it in block letters a jury can read from the gallery.
Sunday, 5:40 p.m. County Forensic Lab. VMD brought out 2 sets of prints on the visor. One matches Harrow's employment fingerprint card, obtained by court order this morning. The other aligns with partials from a motel matchbook recovered in Room 5's wall void. The easy story is a partner. The truer story might be a later owner. We leave the box open on the table labeled Possibilities and keep writing what we can say out loud. Jessa drafts a memo for the DA. 4 pages, photographs down the left, plain language captions down the right. No flourish. The first image is the grid, the last is the fob. Between them, bones, buttons, bag lists, and the visor print overlay. The memo begins with a single sentence in bold. Preliminary, subject to confirmation. That word is the difference between a door and a wall. We drink bad coffee because that is what this part always tastes like. Ruiz rubs the bridge of his nose. I hate almost enough, he says. I say, almost enough is the longest road, and it sounds like something I didn't mean to say out loud. I check my phone again without meaning to. At 8:12 p.m., the genealogy vendor calls. She says, strong lead on the female set. Second cousin match in Wisconsin. We'll need family contact for confirmation. Give me 2 days. She spells the tentative name once, then a second time, as if names deserve to be handled twice. We set the phone down like it could roll off the table if we breathe too hard.
Ruiz marks 2 days on the whiteboard and draws a small box around it, as if a line could keep time from wandering. I write goal beneath the memo, name the 2003 couple, then go to a door. Before we shut down the studio for the night, I walk the board one more time. Parcel, storage, room, tapes, ledger, creak. The string glints like hair in angled light. If a stranger walked in, I'd want him to follow it without asking me a question. I lock the door, check it twice, and tell myself that sleep is part of the work, even when it isn't. A likely ID is coming into view. 2 days.
Chapter 8. Names for Bones. Likely ID pending via genealogy. Objective: notify families, close loops, and prepare for a controlled contact with Harrow. Tuesday, 10 a.m., County Forensic Lab. Good news in this job arrives carefully, like a person stepping into a room where others are sleeping. She's Mara Keegan, missing since late 2003. Last seen leaving a county fair with her boyfriend, Evan Cole. 98% confidence pending direct family confirmation. She spells both names. I write them in my notebook as if ink were a kind of welcome. Ruiz prints the match report and slides it into a folder with more gentleness than paper requires. We write a short script for notifications. Say only what we can say, offer an advocate, offer time, no adjectives. I add silence after to the script, because quiet is part of telling. Tuesday, 12:40 p.m., Mara's aunt's house. A screen door sighs as we step in. The aunt listens the way people listen when they've rehearsed grief for years. Head inclined, hands folded, nodding to keep the room from drifting. We say we believe we found her. We say where and why we're confident and what happens next. On a shelf, a picture of Mara laughing at something that didn't stay in the frame. The aunt touches the glass with 2 fingers and leaves them there as if checking a pulse. We give her the advocate's number on a card, and the card goes beside the photo, a small square of future set down next to past. Tuesday, 2:10 p.m., Evan's brother's house. He meets us in a work shirt with his name stitched in red. The kitchen is clean in the way kitchens are when work days start early. We asked for a swab for confirmatory testing. He signs, steady. He would have stopped to help anyone, he says, almost smiling at the indictment. The cotton swab makes a small sound, the quietest part of this job. We thank him and seal the tube. Driving back, Ruiz stares out at a billboard selling tires that promise confidence in all weather. What percentage of this job is asking strangers to trust you? 90, I say. The other 10 is writing it down so trust can be inspected later. Tuesday, 4:30 p.m., Lake Street Studio. Jessa pins photographs into a timeline while I draft the DA report. Genealogy match pending, visor prints, soil comparison, ledger and shift log hand, parish photo placing Harrow with Lucy in 92, apron strings running from storage to room 5. She prints clean labels until the board looks like a cross-section of a wasp nest, cells of meaning joined by string. We prepare for contact, not a showdown, not theater, just the controlled knock of people who have paperwork and restraint. We list questions we can ask inside our warrants. We add a half-page titled, "If He's There," and a shorter one titled, "If He's Not." Plans are not courage, they are rails so the train doesn't tip. Tuesday, 5:30 p.m., Harrow's apartment complex exterior. The complex is a 2-story horseshoe that echoes shoes on stairs. We knock, no answer.
A neighbor says he left with a backpack that morning. The manager says he's behind on rent, but quiet. We leave a card, and the kind of polite that isn't a smile at all. At 9:10 p.m., a text arrives from an unknown number. You've been thorough. No name, no reply path. The carrier traces it to a prepaid bought with cash at a gas station off exit 74A. A statement, but not a threat, but from proximity. We add the device details to the warrant list. Back at the studio, I write, "Control the next move" at the edge of the whiteboard. He is watching. We do not wave.
Before I lock up, I print a one-page timeline, the kind a jury can hold, and pin it to the corner of the board. The parcel leads to storage. Storage leads to room 5. The ledger leads to employment, then the parish, then Lucy. The truck leads to soil, then visor prints. The creek leads to the genealogy lead. The past left signatures. The present is learning to read them. Warrants are signed in the morning for the apartment and the prepaid purchase records. We move before dawn.
Chapter 9. The Slip. Warrants active. Objective: secure Harrow's residence and seize devices. Avoid pushing him to violence or flight. Wednesday, 6:10 a.m. Harrow's apartment. We breach soft. No extra noise. No theater. The apartment is neat, like a stage set. A life arranged to mean nothing to see. 2 fans sit on a shelf, blades dusted to the hub. On the desk, a portable cassette recorder, twin to the storage units, the capstan's tiny flat spot visible under magnification. We photograph in place, bag it as a separate item, and image the laptop with a write blocker, while the clock in the corner of the screen pretends time is gentle. A shoebox in the closet holds motel matchbooks arranged by year under rubber bands that have stained the cardboard amber. On the kitchen corkboard, last month's parish newsletter lists a remembrance for Lucy Ellison. A pen line under her name sinks into the cork, like pressure that couldn't stop at paper. In a drawer, felt dots and rectangles of wax paper. Habits keep their tools. We inventory, bag, tag. At 8:02 a.m., a second text from the prepaid. Room 5 taught you more than I meant it to. Patrol units find tire tracks near the creek road. A traffic cam shows a greenish pickup at 7:49 a.m. Driver in a cap, plate unreadable. At noon, my office line rings from a voice-over IP account. The voice we have already graphed, measured, steady, range narrowed to a polite blade. He says, "You solved it with fans and glue," amused. How modern. I say, "You solved it first. You solved how to make people invisible." He laughs without air. "Tell Lucy I was kind." The line goes dead. We write the sentence as he spoke it, because accuracy is a weapon you can sharpen daily. The alert goes statewide. He does not surface. The truck doesn't either. Meanwhile, the affidavit must hold in the room where he will not. We stack it carefully. Parcel provenance, storage chain, room 5 recovery, audio signature, image scratch, ledger handwriting, parish photo, truck visor prints, soil ratio, genealogy confirmation, 2003 bolo, texts. Verbs sober, adjectives absent. I add a margin note, listener map, and sketch boxes labeled storage, room, tapes, truck, creek. If the boxes line up, 12 strangers won't need me to point. Subscriber info on the voiceover IP account is what you expect. Shell identity, prepaid cards, public Wi-Fi, a hotspot bought the same week as the texts. The report arrives as a tidy PDF that tells us nothing new, and still matters. It closes the easy paths a defense would enjoy. At 4, the lab calls. The visor's unknown partial matches a utility worker ticketed near exit 74 in 2004. The man bought Harrow's truck at auction and used it for a year before abandoning it. Innocent transfer explains the second print set. Our tree loses a branch and thickens at the trunk. We walk the apartment slowly before we leave. The bed is made like a promise to a landlord. The bookshelf holds labeled binders and nothing soft. On the windowsill, a plant leans toward a light the curtains often denied. The place resists curves. Everything prefers squares. I write that down too, not because it's evidence, but because rooms teach you how their people breathe. Outside, a neighbor drags a trash can down the walk and looks at our shoes as if they can predict outcomes. Ruiz tucks the keys into a labeled envelope. He thinks distance is a skill, he says. I say distance is a room. We keep taking down the walls. Back at the studio, we pinned the newsletter copy beside the parish photo from '92 and the mirror's faint fan. The board looks less like a wall and more like a map of pressure points. I print a one-pager, what we can say and what we can't. The second list stays longer. That's how you know the first list is honest. Goal, I write at the bottom of the whiteboard. Hold the case together without the man in hand. Give families words they can say in daylight. We shut off the lights and let the fans in the building settle into evening hum. Somewhere below, a sitcom laugh track tries to climb the stairs and fails. We are not waiting, we are preparing, and that is a different verb. The unknown print belongs to a later owner. Our branch count drops, the trunk strengthens. Charges are written for the day he steps into reach.
Chapter 10. Exit Wounds. Friday, 10 a.m., County DA's office. Fluorescents flatten the room. The conference table is long enough to feel like distance. We set our binders in a row, tabs like small flags. I walk the case while the DA underlines in brackets, building a second map on her pad. Parcel provenance, storage warrant and manager's consent. Room 5 entry with city authorization and a deputy witness. Audio signature. Image scratch on the negatives. Ledger handwriting. Parish photo. Visor prints via VMD. Soil ratio match within tolerance. Genealogy confirmation from Mara Keegan and Evan Cole. The 2003 BOLO. The two texts. After each section, we say aloud what a defense will press, and the answer. A parcel leads to a storage unit, the unit to room 5, the room to tapes and habits, the paper to a man who loves lists in fans, the truck to where he drove, the ground to 2 names that match the missing. She nods. 2 counts for Keegan and Cole. Earlier couples held in reserve. Add if corroboration tightens. File sealed this afternoon. If he surfaces, we unseal. A tap of the pen. Chain summaries, declarative sentences. Understood, I say. She looks to Ruiz. If he calls. We record, route, and don't perform. No heroics. This case is a bridge. We walk. Friday, 1:30 p.m. Notification visits. We carry the same careful language into living rooms that didn't ask for it. At Mara's aunt's house, we say names, dates, and a certainty built from method. The advocate sits forward, palms open. The aunt asks what comes next. Identification paperwork, options for statements, and a timeline that belongs to the court, not the news. On a shelf, a frame holds Mara mid-laugh. A square of window light floats on the glass. At Evan's brother's table, we give the same lines. Do the charges mean an arrest, he asks. Not yet, I say. They mean we're ready when a door opens. He pours coffee into heavy mugs that remember heat.
The advocate leaves a card and writes today's date on the back. Time blurs when new words enter a house. Outside, Ruiz watches ants repair a small hill we scuffed. We fix what we can, he says. Sometimes we just stop kicking it, I say.
Friday, 4:10 p.m., Lake Street Studio. Jessa prints a final board scaled to travel. She squares each label with a thumbnail. The original parcel goes into her safe, double-sealed, logged with date and time, a second desiccant pack, our initials across the tape. I sign out media to 2 encrypted drives, A and B, and top a banker's box with a contents list, so nothing can pretend it was always there. On the whiteboard, I add one last line under the week's goals. Context. The listener should never be lost. That's why the chapter cards, timestamps, and spoken evidence ledger existed. A spine you can feel without seeing. We read the affidavit aloud, line by line, so rhythm can't hide a weak joint. Parcel, storage, room, tapes, ledger, parish, truck, soil, genealogy, bolo, texts. No rush, no flourish. At 6:12 p.m., the black number again. Exit 74A is prettier at dusk. Patrol sweeps the corridor until dark. Nothing. The DA files the text under Communications. It's a taunt or a habit. Either way, it's only a sentence without a body. Friday, 8 p.m., Creek Bend. The pull-off holds the quiet that follows work. Tamped soil, string gone, trays rinsed and stacked miles away. Evening leans blue over the water. I set 2 wildflowers where the ground remembers. A patrol car slows and drifts on. Somewhere in the trees, a box van lifts leaves in a small repeating shiver. On the tapes, that hum is weather under a voice. A man can build a room out of habit and outages and sound, and stand in it long after the furniture is gone. I open my notebook because writing keeps the air from filling with unsaid things. Evidence log, final. Names restored for 2. Charges filed. Suspect at large. I pictured the studio board. String catching light. Labels square. The parcel asleep in a safe. Some cases end with a door closing. More often they hold, making space where truth and the unanswered sit without touching. This one will hold until a door opens and a room stops humming long enough for someone to step through. I start the car. The night smells like rain and cut grass. The phone stays face down. If it lights again, I'll write it down. If it doesn't, we've already written what matters. Thanks for listening. If you want more, subscribe and come back soon.